Hello, and welcome to Dollars and Cents, the Australia Institute podcast where we explain just what the hell is going on in the economy. I'm Angus Blackman, executive producer of podcasts here at the Australia Institute. And I'm jumping in front of the mic this week, partly because Eleanor is on leave and partly to take revenge on Greg Jericho, who's with me here today. Hello, Gregory.
Hey, Angus. And yes, how dare Eleanor go off on leave to celebrate her birthday? This just shouldn't be allowed.
I know, what a jerk.
Where's the commitment to the podcast, I ask you?
Exactly, yeah. Why isn't she doing it from a tent?
Yes.
I should let listeners know you've only got me for 1 week, and then we're going to have the wonderful Sky Predovec filling in for a couple of weeks before Eleanor gets back early next month. So, Greg, the big story of the day and probably of the week is wages.
But what we've seen in these numbers today is wages growth, which is north of 3%. You know, that's a good, strong and sustainable number. But with inflation higher than we'd like, obviously that has implications for real wages for the time being.
So real wages have fallen. But just as a reminder to people, can you explain what real wages are?
Yeah, real wages are essentially wage growth minus inflation. So
right.
If we use sort of round numbers, if wages go up 4% and inflation goes up 3%, that means your real wage has gone up 1%, 4 minus 3. So it's basically wage growth minus inflation. If your wage goes up 4% and inflation goes up 4%, well, basically you can buy the same amount of stuff that you could a year ago. You know, even though you've got 4% more wage,
yeah,
everything costs 4% more, so it all cancels out. So real wages is about trying to work out what is going on in reality. You know, are you able to buy more stuff with your wages than you could a year ago?
Right. So what did today's wage data show us?
Yeah, we got today the December quarter wage figures, which then also gives us sort of the annual result for 2025. And what we found is that, the ABS found, I wasn't out there doing all the counting. I'm sad
Friends
to say.
of the show, the Australian Bureau of
Friends
Statistics.
of the show, the Bureau of Statistics found that in 2025, wages, just wages themselves, so not real or anything, just wages went up 3.4%.
Okay.
And that means that when you consider that inflation at the moment is 3.8%, well, 3.4 minus 3.8 gets you a negative number, and that means that your real wages fell because basically prices went up more than your wages. So what it means is even if you got a wage rise in the past year, you're probably actually not being able to buy any more stuff than you could a year ago. In fact, probably buying less.
Yeah, right. So we've heard a lot in recent weeks about inflation being higher than the Reserve Bank and the government would like. Is it more a case of wages growth is flat or that inflation is just too hot?
Wages are not sort of taking off. That 3.4%, it's pretty much not that much above what it was 3 months ago. In March 2025, for example, the annual growth of wages was 3.4%. It's basically stuck at 3.4%. Right. But what we've seen is inflation rise. Now, the problem is what's driving that inflation. What we can sort of work out if we sort of do a bit of economics and a bit of maths, which our colleague at the Australian Institute here, David Richardson, has done, is pointed that actually it's not wages that are causing that bump in inflation. It's something else that is going on. Probably, hey, profits, you heard of them?
Yeah.
They're doing a bit of lifting as well at the moment. And that's what Dave's research found out, is that actually there's other factors besides wages that are really the fault of prices going up. But the problem is, what's the Reserve Bank doing? They're trying to slow wages growth. That's why they raise interest rates. They want to slow wages growth. And it's like, well, thanks, but is that really going to do any good given that they are not the cause of inflation?
So you wrote in your Grogonomics column for Guardian Australia this week that the RBA never misses an opportunity to blame wages for inflation because it really is the only reason to raise interest rates. But we've just talked about how wages aren't driving inflation. So why did they raise interest rates?
Yeah, good, good question.
Thank you.
Geez, I wish I knew. No, it really, as we've said repeatedly, when you only got one tool, when you've only got a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Mhm.
And the point I'm trying to make here is that, as I've said, and I really think it needs repeating because people kind of don't understand it, because we see the media always just talk about, inflation is rising, so the Reserve Bank is raising interest rates. And you think, oh, okay, so interest rates going up causes inflation to go down. It's like, no. When the Reserve Bank raises interest rates, the next day Coles don't go, oh, well, we won't raise prices anymore, or we'll keep them flat, or we'll lower our costs. No. What it means is that because we got to pay our mortgages, that means you've got less money to spend elsewhere. So that means business turnover declines or flattens. And so if you're a shop owner, or if you employ service operators doing whatever, you think actually business is a bit light on now. It's not as strong as it was 6 months ago. I think I can cut back on some hours here.
Mm.
I don't need to employ a new person. We've had one person retire. Actually, I don't need to replace them. Or
Yeah.
all these people who were doing 35 hours, I'm going to cut you back to 30 hours. Or you lose a shift. And as a result, if you're losing shifts, or if there's less work around, you're going to feel less bolshy about asking for a wage rise, because you're like, geez, I should be lucky just to keep my hours, let alone go to him and say, hey, I reckon I could do with a 4% pay rise.
Yeah.
And so what they're trying to do when they raise interest rates is to increase unemployment so that wage growth slows.
Mm.
And they're like, well, if wage growth is slowing, that means there's less money being spent in the shops. That means companies won't be like, oh, I got them lining up here, I can raise my prices and fatten my profits. So when I look at these figures and go, well, hang on, wages are not causing inflation. You look at your predictions in the Reserve Bank's statement on monetary policy, they're saying that actually wage pressures are going to actually keep going down. So why are you raising interest rates? What do you think you're going to do there? You're not going to reduce wage pressures because they're already reduced. You're just kind of hurting us because it's this thing of, inflation's rising. We got to do something about that, instead of actually saying, hang on, you've also made a point in there that retail businesses over the latter half of last year found that actually we can raise our profit margins
Mm.
and get away with it. And what does that mean? They've raised prices. They've raised
Yeah.
prices purely to increase their profits. They haven't raised prices because the cost of whatever they're selling has gone up. They're raising prices because they can.
Yeah.
And so that is the main cause of what we're seeing, what's driving inflation. And yet it's workers who are the ones who get smashed by an interest rate rise.
So just to be clear, and this relates to the research that Dave Richardson has found, what you and Dave are saying is that in a normal market, if the economy is depressed, or isn't running as well as it should, then you would expect that prices would stay steady or drop because people can't afford to pay them. But what's happening in Australia's situation is that companies are just raising their prices anyway because there are no consequences. Like, why are there no consequences here?
Well, what we've seen is, one, we've got what we know about Australia's retail sector very much, but a whole range of other sectors, is there isn't a hell of a lot of competition. So, yeah, they can raise prices because what are you going to do? You're going to go buy your hammer from someone else? Sorry, Bunnings has got the hammers,
Yeah.
And, that's not to call out Bunnings. I'm not sure whether I'm not suggesting they've been profit price gouging or anything. But, we know Bunnings is the main player. We could talk Coles and Woolies, which we will in a bit.
Yeah.
They're the main players. There's very little competition. And yes, there has been some increase in consumer spending. And the Reserve Bank is going, we got to tamp that down. But that's not because we're getting better wages. It's because, one, there had been some good tax cuts that have flowed through the stage 3 tax cuts. And also the Reserve Bank had cut interest rates. And so people are like, thank Christ, after so many interest rate rises, you're cutting them. That helped everyone feel a bit better about things and feel a bit more confident to go out shopping. And also, Australians have become very canny at realizing there are Black Friday sales. And if I wait, I can go mad then. And so we've seen this real change in consumer patterns. And it's a case of also retailers are also smart, knowing, they're looking for the Black Friday sales, but that doesn't mean we have to offer them the greatest sale that's ever been. We can offer them something that seems like a sale or seems like a bit of a sale, and we slap on Black Friday sale, and people are like, "Oh, I'm chasing bargains," and so
and then you end up buying shit that you don't need.
Exactly, and so the Reserve Bank, however, are of the view, when we were raising interest rates and when inflation was going up, companies had to reduce their profit margins a bit, and now they're able to increase them again. It's like, well, hang on. One, why should they be able to increase their profit? No one's saying they'll go broke. It was just that, now they're increasing their profit margins. And it's this sense of, JB Hi-Fi this week announced that their profits went up 7%. Well, that's more than the wages went up. That's more than inflation went up. Someone's doing nice.
Yeah.
And it's a case of, that is viewed of, isn't that a good sign that the economy is doing well? Whereas I'm like, hang on, profits don't appear out of thin air. Someone, they arrived from something, and that was someone buying something for more than it costs to provide it. And if the profit margin is increasing, that means they've increased prices by more than their costs, which means, hang on, what's inflation again? Oh, yeah, that's prices, how much they've gone up. Maybe profits do play a bit of a role. There are times when wages play a role, but it ain't now. And to be really honest, it hasn't been for a very long time. It'd be nice to see some wages drive inflation for once. I mean, but it's something that is always seen, and the Reserve Bank is always alert to watch that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, as we go back to real wages fallen, the only way for real wages to improve is for them to go up by more than inflation. And yet the Reserve Bank is almost at any time there's a sign of that, are like, bit worried, better clamp down on them, better raise interest rates. You're like, well, that's great.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it's not me buying a bookshelf that's driving inflation. That's good to know. Might just be the cost of the freaking bookshelf.
I mean, how many columns have we seen written about that? It's all, your spending on something has caused inflation. Oh, the Ashes tour caused inflation and caused the Reserve Bank to raise interest rate. It's all this stuff of, you shouldn't be spending. That's caused interest rates to go up. It's like, hang on. Our wages are going up by less than inflation. Maybe have a look at the person who's charging the prices that we're paying, because that's what the measurement of inflation is, the prices that we pay. You don't go into IKEA and go, you know what, Mr. IKEA, I'd like to haggle. No.
I'd like to try. I try and avoid going into the shop as much as possible because I lose the will to live really quickly. We talked about profits, and one organisation that doesn't mind one is Coles, and they're in court this week. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, called the ACCC most of the time for obvious reasons, given I struggled to say it so badly just then. They're suing Coles, alleging that it misled customers over supposed discounts. We've talked about this a little bit before when the case was kind of announced, but can you just run us through what's being alleged here?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that actually we kind of, I won't say we revealed it or anything, but certainly Australian Institute Research had been looking long and hard at what Coles and Woolies were doing, and
it's because of your soft drink habits, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wrote a column for Guardian that I expanded on, and for the Australian Institute, and there were other journalists I know at the ABC who even took it further and started looking at other products, because I knew as a fact, because I do the shopping, that at Coles and Woolies they would take it in turns on having Coke on sale and Pepsi on sale. And Coles would never have Coke and Pepsi on sale at the same time. It'd always be Coke on sale one week, Pepsi on sale the next week.
Mm.
And it would be the opposite in Woolies. The week that Coles has got Coke on sales, Woolly would have Pepsi on sale. And so I was sort of just looking at that and found the data that you were able to actually chart it and show this. But what the ACCC also found was it wasn't so much that they were just taking in turns, which is bad enough because it really shows they're not really competing against each other. They're working together, even if that is an unspoken agreement. Then it's not like they're colluding. It's just the fact that they
don't have to. There's only two of them.
They know what each other is doing. Yeah.
What
the ACCC found was, and this is with Coles related to a lot of their down campaign. What they'd do is they would be offering sales that weren't really on sale. And to explain what I mean by that is they cite an example of Strepsils lozenges. And the ACCC was able to show in Coles that from basically the start of 2021 till sort of around August 2022, so, about 18 months, the price of Strepsils was just flat at $5.50 a pack. That was how much it was. So 18 months at $5.50. Then in around August or around that time in 2022, for 28 days, they raised the price of Strepsils to $7 a packet for 28 days. Then they dropped it to $6 and announced in their down, it's down from $7 to $6. And the ACCC are going, hang on, but that's up from $5.50 that it was.
Yeah, I'm not an economist, but I'd say that's
30
up.
days ago, And so that's what they're saying they did. And it wasn't just with strips, it was with a number of products. And they came up with many, many instances of this where they're saying what you've actually done is raise prices, but for a month, maybe, 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, you raised it up higher.
Yeah.
Then dropped it, and you're saying, "Oh, this is the lower price." Where they're saying, really, for most people who perhaps haven't bought Strepsils for say a month, the price has actually gone up. But you're saying it's actually a sale and a drop, and the ACCC is basically alleging that's false and misleading. Which is illegal. Coles is saying, "Oh, look, people knew what was. This is just this is." Nothing wrong. We were honest about what was going on.
Yeah. So as you said, Coles rejects the allegations, and their legal representative said, I think in their opening statements in the court case, that all ordinary reasonable consumers know that they're in an inflationary environment.
And he's right in that but without sort of perhaps inadvertently, he's pointing out that, as we were saying back in, and this is covering this period of 2022 when inflation was really taking off. Our research was saying companies are fattening their profits. This is being driven by profits because people at this point they were seeing that inflation was going mad overseas. And it was just taken as given, prices have gone up. Oh, well, it's inflation, and it was a case of, it wasn't. And also it's not, there's nothing illegal with Coles or Woolies raising prices, even if they raise them by more than they need to. That was not illegal. What they're saying is illegal here is the fact that they're then saying, after 28 days or even less than that, they're dropping the prices and saying, this is actually a sale. And they're going, it's not. It's just a tricky way of raising prices.
So you talked about profits driving inflation just then. What do we know about, I guess, Coles profits over the last little while?
The profit margin of the Coles supermarkets, which are on record, their earnings before income tax, their profit margin in 2017-18 was 3.9%. In 18-19, it was 3.8%. In 2019-20, so when the pandemic hit, and remember, they were the only things open, so you could imagine that their profits are going to go up. They went up to 4.9%, so a big spike.
And which is given the volume of trade that they do, that would be an enormous amount of money, right?
Enormous. So they went from 3.8% to 4.9%. Okay. But then 2021, it went up to 5%. You think, hang on, we weren't having lockdowns then. And then you think, okay, what's happening now? 24, 25, the most recent figures, their profit margin was 5.3%. It's more than it was.
Right.
So more than it was before the pandemic, more than it was during the lockdowns when they were the only show in town. So
Yeah.
it's really what we're seeing here is that Coles and Woolies were able to, and still are able to keep raising prices, keep fattening their margins, because what are you going to do? Go elsewhere? I mean, good luck.
National debt is on track to surpass $1 trillion in the coming weeks as Jim Chalmers prepares to deliver his May budget.
Philip Lowe said the government wants to keep spending and offering people handouts, but if supply is not growing, then interest rates have to go up.
We respect the former Governor of the Reserve Bank.
You know, I respect Phil Lowe. He's become a bit of a critic of the government since he wasn't reappointed to that role. I wish him well, genuinely.
So, Greg, the last thing I wanted to talk about today is that Treasury is predicting that Australia's gross debt is set to hit the $1 trillion mark by April next year. What's happening here? That seems like a big number. I don't know.
I'm looking out the window and hell, society is breaking down out there. It is. Cats are marrying dogs. It's just madness. Look, it's a number that means nothing. I mean, saying that, we got $1 trillion in debt, and again, that's gross debt, not net debt, is no different from saying we've got $999 billion in debt. It's just a bit like with cricket. We like it when you bring up the 100.
Right. Yeah.
It seems like a round number, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. And also remember, it's a nominal figure. It doesn't take into account inflation. It doesn't take into account the increase in the economy or the amount of revenue that the government is bringing. It's just that $1 billion is worth less than $1 billion was 10 years ago, and so $1 trillion is worth less than $1 trillion. Yeah, it's a nice round number. Look, it's driven a little bit by the cost of inflation on the government, which means interest rates going up means that servicing debt is higher, so they've had to borrow more a bit to cover that. There have been some saying, it's terrible that Australia's interest rates are going up while, America's look like they're going to go down.
Yeah.
You have to remember, again, even though I don't think interest rates should have gone up, interest rates going up is also a sign that our economy is healthier than other places. The reason why they're cutting interest rates and looking to cut interest rates in America is because America's economy is struggling. And
I'm pretty comfortable living in Australia right now, given what's going on in the United States.
As I say, nothing. Yes, we've seen the government bond yields, which is basically the interest rate the government has to pay, has gone up a bit, but not because it hit $1 trillion. It's because of a whole other range of factors, including the fact that America's not doing so well. There's a lot of interactions across international money markets, but yeah, nice round number. But did anything change? Did you notice it? Did you get a chill up the back of your spine when it ticked over? And it's like, nah. And here's the thing, it hadn't even happened. If you go on the AOFM, which is the Australian Office of Financial Management, you can go there, and right on their front page, they tell you how much government debt there is right now, and it's $990.5 billion. Are we going to really notice anything when that clips over to $1 trillion? Nah. But the same way we didn't notice when it went over 750 or when it went over 500, but I'm sure there was someone trying to make a headline out of it and saying this is government spending out of control. It's like, well,
They certainly were. So right-wing media was framing this as some sort of colossal failure of the government. I can imagine Paul Murray saying the $1 trillion in the Dr. Evil voice.
$1 trillion.
I imagine we can expect some kind of pretty odious media land debate about debt levels over the next few weeks, particularly leading into the budget.
Yeah, all about the budget's going to be pressure from the opposition, such as they are. All they're going to be talking about is cutting government spending. We had the ludicrous thing of Angus Taylor writing to Anthony Albanese suggesting a bipartisan committee be set up to look at ways to cut waste. And Jim Chalmers was like, yeah, thanks, but no.
A big yeah, nah from the Treasury.
We're right, thanks. We'll look at the budget ourselves. You can come up with your own idiotic ideas. Look, there's always going to be pressure on the budget, but always remember, as we say, every week it seems, the budget balance is made up of two things: the spending and the revenue. If you want the budget balance deficit to get smaller, you can cut spending, yes, but you could also raise revenue and maybe have a look at, say, raising $17 billion more from tax and gas exports. That could be a way to reduce the budget deficit. I'm just throwing things out there.
Crazy.
Hoping they take seed. Who knows? But
whispering it into the wind, Lion King style.
But all the talk's going to be about cutting government spending, but that's really not the only thing that should be done. And certainly, as we say, if government spending was causing inflation as well, we would be seeing that reflected in really strong consumer demand coming from tax cuts and government sort of generosity. And we're not really seeing that. We're seeing it from people chasing bargains and companies then going, oh, you're all chasing bargains. You know that bargain? Maybe it's not as sweet as you thought it was, but
I'd like me some of that.
We know you'll buy it anyway.
Yeah. And just to get in a plug for Follow the Money, one of our other podcasts that we produce at the Australia Institute, we've run an episode that's out today as we record, so Wednesday, with Nobel Prize winning economist Professor Joseph Stiglitz, on why corporate tax isn't, I guess, just good for budget bottom line, as we're talking about here, but it's actually good for democracy as well. So we'll leave a link in the show notes for that. Greg, it's been an absolute pleasure. I will jump on the other side of the microphone next week, but thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Angus. And off you go behind the mics. Sorry, not behind the mics, behind the... I don't even know where you are behind when you're producing.
The buttons.
You're just behind. Behind the buttons next week. And yes, we will have Sky with us next week. The wonderful Sky. She's been doing some great stuff, so we might even talk to her about what she's doing.
Yeah, totally.
So please tune in for that one. But this episode of Dollars and Cents was recorded on the 18th of February, and some things may have changed. If you want to find out all about what the heck's going on with wages and are they really driving inflation, go check out my Grogonomics column on the Guardian Australian site. And if you want to find some other research on all manner of topics, I mean, just basic everything you could think of, from experts here at the Australia Institute and experts outside the Institute, go check out thepoint.com.au. It's our media website. We really try and give voice to a whole range of views that really need to be heard from and that are often not heard from in news sites, and also just have a lot of fact checks, explainers and everything. Really good site. Check it out. That's thepoint.com.au. As always, our music comes from Blue Dot Sessions. Everyone, have a great week. Thank you, Angus. We will see you behind the buttons next week, and we'll have Sky there chatting to me about everything to do with the economy. Cheers.
Bye.